Welcome to the Pulsating Biology, and in today's video we are going to cover the topic the gases exchange for the O-levels biology. When you hear the term gases exchange, the question that arises in your mind is that how do organisms basically obtain oxygen within living in this environment? So when you talk about the gas exchange, it means that there is exchange of gases between an organism and the environment, and this gas exchange can be dependent upon many kinds of the factors. For example, when you talk about the unicellular organism, they have a large surface area to volume ratio. Such organisms do not require any special gas exchange system or an efficient oxygen transport mechanism. Instead, what happens is that the oxygen and the carbon dioxide can be efficiently exchanged between the organisms and the surrounding by a process that is known as the diffusion. Diffusion or either by the active transport. But when you talk about the larger animals, for example, in larger animals we have fishes, for example, we have the amphibians, or we have even mammals. When you talk about such animals, we say that comparative to the unicellular organism, they have a lesser, smaller, and surface area to volume ratio. What happens in that is that they have special certain organs that are responsible for the gases exchange. All right. Once you've talked about the larger animals and the unicellular organisms, then comes up to the humans. The basic major topic for your to understand in this chapter is about the humans. So what happens in humans is the absorption of atmospheric oxygen and the removal of carbon dioxide from the body that occur at a very respiratory level, where a special organ is present in the lungs that we say is the alveoli. This is the basic terminologies that are important for any unicellular organisms, any larger animal, or especially in the humans. So when you talk about human gases exchange, what are those certain sub-organs that are basically involved in the gases exchange? Okay. So at number one, we have the lungs, specially. Then we are going to talk about the nasal passage. So the nasal passage is another one. Then we have, of course, the pharynx, through which it basically passes on to the lungs. Then we have even larynx involved in it. Then we have trachea. Trachea is just like the esophagus. The esophagus is a food pipe, whereas trachea is a windpipe. Then we have the bronchioles. We have ribs also. We have alveoli also. We're going to talk about them one by one further, but these are the basic organs that are involved in it, and that you need to know is that lungs is the major one. Then we have a nasal passage, as the nostrils are involved. Then we have pharynx, then we have larynx, then we have trachea, then we have bronchioles, and then we have alveoli that provides a large surface area to volume ratio that is majorly involved in the exchange of gases, that is the excretion of carbon dioxide and absorption of oxygen. Alright, so when you talk about the gases exchange and its entire pathway, the first thing that comes into our mind, that is the nose. So this is the first ever thing where the basically the air enters. So what happens is that air usually enters in your body through two external nostrils. This is the passage where the basically there is entrance of that. We say that there are two external nostrils through which the air basically enters. What happens inside the nostrils is that these walls of the nostrils bear some fringe of hairs. And what are those hairs responsible for? Those hairs are responsible to basically capture all of those dust and the foreign particles. Number one, to capture all the dust particles and to moisten up the air in order to make it a bit warmer. These are the two basic ones, and the third one is that it captures all of the harmful substances or the harmful microbes that are able to be entered into the air passage. So into the two nostrils, there are presence of the certain hair follicles, or you can say the fringe of hairs, where they lead to the mucous membrane, where basically what happens is that the three major functions takes place. That is the dust and the foreign particles that includes, for example, the bacteria in the air that are trapped within the air are basically controlled by the hairs that are present in the external nostrils. Then as an air passes through the passage, basically air passes through, what happens is that it warms up and moistens the air, so it is able to be passed on more easily. Then all the harmful bacteria or all the harmful microbes that are basically trapped into the air and are able to be entered into your body, so it acts as a line of defense and controls and traps all the harmful microbes and protect it from entering into your air pathway. Then what happens is that once the air has entered into your body through the two external nostrils, it goes through the air pathway and then it enters into your pharynx. This area is termed as the pharynx, then it goes into the larynx, and then here's a pathway that we say as an air pipe, or you can call it as trachea. Later, the trachea bifurcates into the two lungs, the right lung and the left lung, and is reverted at the end with a muscular diaphragm. This is the entire passage in order for you to understand. So, for now, we need to learn that the air passage or the air pathway starts from the two external nostrils, and nose is the first pathway for the air pathway. Okay, the next on number 2, we have the trachea. Now, what is a trachea? When you talk about trachea, basically it is also termed as the windpipe, which is supported by a C-shaped cartilage. When you talk about C-shaped cartilage, it means that these sorts of the structures are present in it, and these C-shaped cartilage are basically responsible for the opening of the lumen. And the membrane next to the lumen is basically the epithelium. So what is epithelium consisting of? The epithelium consists of the two kinds of these structures. Number 1 is the gland cell, and number 2 is the epithelial cell. These two structures are present into the mucous membrane that is outside to the epithelium. What are they responsible for? So the gland cells are basically responsible for secreting the mucus in order to trap the dust particles and the bacteria that are basically trapped within the within the air, in order to protect them from entering into your body. When you talk about the ciliated cells, these cells have like a hair-like structures that are known as the cilia. Cilia are the hair-like structures basically that are on the surface. These cilia sweep the dust, basically dust trapped on the mucus up to the trachea. These two things are very important when it comes to the epithelial cell surface membrane, as the gland cells and epithelial cells are responsible for the secretion and trapping all of the microbes and all of the dust particles that may enter into your body. After that, on number 3, we have the bronchi and the bronchioles. Bronchi and the bronchioles. As we have already talked about the structure, as the trachea bifurcates into the two tubes. These two tubes are known as the bronchi. The bifurcating tubes are known as the bronchi. Its singular, however, is termed as the bronchus. What happens is that each bronchus carries air into the lung. So the right bronchus carries it into the right lung, whereas the left bronchus carries it into the left lung. What happens in that? The bronchia is similar in structure to the trachea. Each bronchus branches repeatedly, giving rise to the numerous bronchus branches. Then the further small branches arises. These smaller branches are termed as the bronchioles, and they are equally present in the left and the right lung. These bronchioles give rise to the small bag-like structures, or you can say air sac-like structures. These air sac-like structures are known as the alveoli. Alveoli is very important structure when it comes to the gaseous exchange. So you need to learn that the trachea bifurcates into the two. These bifurcation tubes are known as the bronchi. Then the bronchi further bifurcates into the bronchioles that are present on the right and the left lung both. And then the bronchioles give rise to the air sac-like structures that are known as the alveoli, that are responsible for basically increasing the surface area to volume ratio. So let's talk about the last structure that is basically involved in it, that is known as the alveoli. So alveoli are also termed as the air sacs. These gas exchange basically takes place through the walls of the alveoli. That's why we say that alveoli is a very important structure. Numerous alveoli are basically present and are found in the lung, and they are basically responsible for increasing the large surface area to volume ratio, and they are equally present in the left and the right lung. This is all that you need to learn about the nose, the trachea that consists of the epithelial layer, that consists of the gland cells and the epithelial cells. Then the trachea bifurcates into the bronchi and gives rise to the bronchioles. Then at the end of the bronchioles, we have the air sacs that are known as the alveoli. And alveoli is responsible for increasing the surface area to volume ratio.